buckle up and get ready for an epic journey through time. Ancient Rome, a civilization that was way ahead of its time, like a boss 1,000 years ago. We're diving into 15 mind-blowing facts that'll make you go wow, Romans were something else. Let's kick things off with number 15. The infamous Emperor Gaius Caligula. This guy was straight out of crazy town. He made his horse a senator's. Talk about equine empowerment. Had some pretty shady relationships with his sisters, turned human sacrifices into a spectator sport, and even chatted up the moon like it was an old buddy. Let's get real though. Emperor Gaius Caligula was more than just wild antics. Did you know this Roman ruler had an absolute weakness for the shiny stuff? We're talking gold, baby. He'd literally spread gold coins all over the floor and walk on them with his bare feet, like he owned the place. And some crazy stories even claim he'd wade through that gold like it was a money pool, just like Scrooge McDuck taking the plunge. Here's the lowdown on Caligula's jaw-dropping obsession with luxury. This emperor took extravagance to new levels. Not only did he go wild for jewels and gold decor, but he'd even drape them over his clothes like a walking treasure trove and decorate palace walls fit for royalty. But wait, it gets even crazier. Caligula was known to dissolve natural pearls in vinegar and chug them down, because why not? During banquets, he'd serve up golden loaves of bread and meat, leaving guests utterly speechless. His message: be either a total cheapskate or an emperor with unlimited funds. Meanwhile, while everyone thought he was still kicking, Caligula built his very own temple dedicated to all himself. Yeah, you read that right. He'd got statues in his likeness, dressed him up daily in whatever Caligula wore, and had Rome's rich folks making offerings like they were worshiping a living god. Here's a behind-the-scenes peek at ancient Rome's wildest party tricks. When it came time for gifts, Caligula didn't just stop at flowers or fancy trinkets. He'd shower his friends with exotic animals like flamingos and peacocks that everyone in Rome went crazy for. Fast forward to 86 AD when the Roman ruler Titus flipped the script on the Colosseum, literally. This iconic stadium got a serious aquatic makeover as it was flooded to stage an insane naval battle. According to historian Cassius Dio, Titus didn't just bring in ships and seafaring folks, he also had trained horses and bulls gliding through the water like pros, while people on board vessels battled it out like they were straight outta ancient Greece. Talk about a spectacle. Buckle up for ancient Rome's wildest water battles. We're diving into the world of Naumachia. Back in 46 BC, Julius Caesar threw an epic bash to celebrate his 4 major wins: Gaul, Egypt, Pontus, and Numidia. As part of this jaw-dropping spectacle, they created a massive floating arena near the river Tiber with over 6,000 rowers and fighters on board ships from Tyre and Egypt. But how real was this sea battle? Was it a carefully choreographed show or an all-out free-for-all? We don't know for sure, but one thing's clear. Thousands of Romans showed up to find out, cramming the streets so much that people even camped out overnight just to get a glimpse of this unforgettable event. You won't believe what went down at Caesar's Naumachia. It was so wild that some spectators got trampled to death. The streets were packed as people rushed to see the ships collide and, allegedly, blood spill. Talk about a bloody spectacle. But let's switch gears. Did you know Roman emperors took a rather adventurous approach to self-defense? In the 1st century AD, they'd take tiny doses of every poison known to man in an attempt to build up immunity. This crazy practice was called Mithridatism, named after King Mithridates VI, who apparently pioneered it. Guess you could say these emperors were toxic optimists. Hold up, Mithridatism wasn't all it was cracked up to be. While it might have protected against some toxins, it definitely didn't cover them all. And in many cases, it just led to a whole new set of problems. But hey, the Romans weren't ones to give up easily. They started spinning tales about a magical antidote called Mithridate, said to neutralize even the deadliest poisons. The legend lived on for centuries, with people experimenting to recreate this mythical concoction. Fast forward to ancient times when war was raging and King Mithridates VI had no intention of being paraded as a prisoner in Rome. He opted out, choosing poison over defeat. But unfortunately, his exhaustion might have clouded his judgment. It's said he used the very poison he'd tried to build up immunity to. Talk about a tragic irony. Talk about a plot twist. King Mithridates VI downed a massive dose of poison, thinking it'd be game over. But guess what? He didn't even flinch. It seems he just ended up with a stomach full of yucky stuff and no way out. And you know what they say. Sometimes the simplest approach is best. Just label something toxic and leave it alone. Now, let's switch gears to an epic tale of ancient athletes. Did you know that Roman gladiators were total veggie lovers? A bone-chilling study from Austria and Switzerland revealed that these fierce arena fighters were primarily plant-based, ditching the meat for a healthier, performance-boosting diet. Who knew that a strong vegan game could be a real advantage in the ring? Get ready to rumble. We're diving into the secret fuel behind those fierce Roman gladiators. Scientists dug up some serious scoop from a 2,000-year-old cemetery, revealing what these ancient athletes ate for power. The bone th tofu fing truth. These veggie-powered warriors were mostly munching on grains like wheat and barley, with beans making a regular appearance on the menu. No meat in sight. And if they weren't already rocking an amazing vegan game, gladiators also sipped on a special plant ash drink to supercharge their recovery after intense battles and grueling training sessions. You might have heard M called the barleyman, but it seems not all gladiators were strictly plant-based, or so their bones tell us. Most of these ancient fighters stuck to a grain-focused diet, ditching meat and dairy for beans and pulses, just like their vegan ancestors. However, two skeletons revealed a different story. They were loaded with animal protein, possibly hinting that these guys came from other parts of the Roman Empire where the menu was meatier. In ancient Rome, it wasn't just their fighting skills that made gladiators irresistible. Their ripped physiques were believed to be major aphrodisiacs. Gladiators, ancient Rome's rock stars, captivating audiences with their daredevil skills in the arena. After a brutal battle, these fearless fighters' sweat would be scraped off using a sickle-like tool called a strigil and bottled up for fans to buy. They'd either use it as an alleged love potion or try to cure ailments like epilepsy. Either way, they were drinking the stuff. The more famous and successful a gladiator was, the higher demand there was for his sweat or even blood, believed to be super potent aphrodisiacs. Talk about a crazy fan culture. This sweat and blood craze didn't stop there. It was usually mixed with wine for an extra kick. And did you know gladiators' blood was also thought to have real healing powers? It was believed to help epilepsy sufferers, as well as men struggling with impotence or infertility. Now let's talk about a weirdly lucrative trade in ancient Rome: urine sales. Yes, the government put special taxes on it because people actually made a living just collecting and selling this stuff. Who knew pee could be so valuable? Urine collectors would even go door to door with massive vats, asking homeowners to contribute to their business. But wait till you hear how they put pee to use. People used it as a washing liquid. A worker would dump all the dirty clothes into a tub. Then someone else would basically urinate all over them to get that cleaning process started. Now let's talk about something really gross: ancient Roman dental care. Get ready for some seriously ancient hygiene hacks that will make your skin crawl, literally. In places where soap was in short supply, people relied on oil massages to get clean. They'd smother their bodies with the stuff and then use a tool called a strigil, kind of like a giant exfoliating glove, to scrape off all those dead skin cells. And you thought your morning routine was rough. But here's where it gets weird. Gladiators took it to the next level by collecting their sweat and shed skin in bottles and selling them as an aphrodisiac for women. Yes, you read that right. These were essentially ancient beauty creams made from human grossness. Just imagine slathering a face mask made from gladiator sweat and skin cells. Talk about a unique skincare routine. Women back in the day were willing to go to great lengths, or should I say, gross lengths, for that perfect glow. Now, let's switch gears to some seriously impressive ancient engineering. We're talking aqueducts on steroids. The Romans took water management to new heights with their advanced irrigation systems, which are still mind-blowing today. Mind blown. Rome's massive network of aqueducts stretched an astonishing 480 miles, with a whopping 29 sections standing tall above ground. That's like piping in enough water to fill over 1,100 Olympic-sized pools every single day. We're talking 300 million gallons, folks. As the Roman Empire expanded its reach across Europe, they brought their game-changing aqueducts along for the ride. These engineering marvels were a labor of love, taking an impressive 500 years to build and financed by both public and private funds, with even high-ranking officials proudly commissioning these incredible feats of ancient architecture. Now, let's talk about the Roman emperors who went big on aqueducts. We're talking Augustus, Caligula, and Trajan. These guys weren't just ruling with an iron fist. They were also piping in clean water for their citizens. But what really stands out about Rome's water wonderland is those iconic stone arch bridges that have been carrying the weight of history for centuries, still standing strong over European valleys today. And while we're on the topic of ancient innovations, who knew the Romans actually pioneered the concept of supermarkets? That's right, they were the OGs of bulk buying and efficient logistics. Talk about being 2,000 years ahead of their time. Let's take a step back in time to Rome during the reign of Trajan, around 107–110 AD. This is where we find one of the world's oldest shopping centers, Trajan's Market. What started as a stunning example of imperial Roman architecture quickly transformed into a bustling marketplace. With over 150 shops at its peak, this complex was the place to be for ancient Romans looking for fresh produce like fruits and veggies straight from the Mediterranean Sea. Think fish, wine, olive oil, and exotic spices. Trajan's Market wasn't just about food, though. It also had residential apartments above the shops, making it a self-sufficient community right in the heart of Rome. You might be surprised to learn that ancient Rome's legendary gladiator culture wasn't as glamorous as we often think. At least not for the guys in the arena themselves. While it's true many gladiators were slaves or prisoners, some actually voluntarily signed up for this high-risk job, hoping for fame and fortune. However, their social status was pretty low. They weren't seen as heroes, but more like professional performers or even just workers. It wasn't until later in the Roman Empire that gladiators gained a bit more prestige. But let's be clear, back then, it wasn't all swords, sand, and adoring crowds. Gladiators, we often picture them as heroic superstars of ancient Rome, but in reality, they were a bit more complicated. Sure, some free men voluntarily became gladiators seeking fame and fortune, but it's essential to remember that these guys still occupied a lower rung on the social ladder. They shared this status with other performers and service workers, like actors and sex workers, not exactly the creme de la creme of Roman society. While crowds cheered them on for their bravery, gladiators were also viewed as laborers who risked their lives for pay, putting them in a unique spot where they were both admired and marginalized. It's wild to think that these legendary fighters were basically seen as glorified day workers by the Romans. Talk about a paradox. Get ready to discover the untold story of Britain's very first invaders, or the Romans. Before they even set foot on our shores, Britain was this mystical place that most folks weren't even sure existed. But Julius Caesar, the power-hungry future dictator, had big plans. He wanted gold, glory, and control. In 55 and 54 BC, during his Gallic Wars, Caesar made the bold move to invade Britain. According to his records, The Britons had been taken over or heavily influenced by other Celtic tribes during their Iron Age and were even helping Caesar's enemies. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of a long-lasting Roman presence in Britain. But here's the twist. Caesar's first invasion didn't exactly go as planned. It was a total military flop, and he left empty-handed, but with one major victory, proving to the world that Britain wasn't just a myth after all. This bold move gave him all the glory he craved. Although it'd take another century for the Romans to finally claim Britain as their own in 43 AD, when they did, they rolled up their sleeves and left an indelible mark on our land. During their 350-year reign, they built an astonishing 10,000 miles of road using locally sourced materials like clay, chalk, and gravel, and guess what? Some of these unbeatable routes are still used today as the backbone of Britain's motorway system. Let's set straight another road myth. The Romans didn't just draw lines in the sand and expect their roads to magically appear. Nope, these ancient engineers were on it, expertly navigating Britain's landscape to create a network of roads that were smart, efficient, and super practical. They went for high ground to ensure good drainage and avoid ambushes, cleverly bypassed mountains and rivers, and even mixed in some straight sections to keep things moving. Talk about forward thinking. You guessed it. Even the mighty Romans had their limits. As their empire expanded like crazy, keeping everything under control became a major challenge. Their system just couldn't cope with the sheer size and complexity of the empire, making them increasingly vulnerable to attacks from outside and internal power struggles. It's a cautionary tale that even the most powerful empires can become too big to handle all, and in this case, it played a huge role in the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Who knew ancient Romans had such a taste for adventure and exotic pets? Unlike us, they didn't have dogs and cats as household favorites. Ferrets, birds, and even monkeys took center stage. But these unusual pets weren't just for show. Ferrets were actually super helpful in keeping those pesky rats and mice at bay. And you can imagine the wild stories behind how these animals ended up on Roman doorsteps. It's like a real-life episode of Planet Earth, but from over 2,000 years ago. You won't believe how ancient hunters caught those massive bears. It's like a mix of old-school rock concert and high-stakes action movie. First, they'd use dogs to sniff out the bear dens, then break in with an epic sound effects combo, trumpets blaring and cymbals crashing. This noise blast would send the disoriented bear tumbling into a hidden net. Talk about a trap. But this was just the beginning. The real challenge came when the hunters had to restrain the enraged beast with ropes and wooden planks. Once tamed, these wild warriors were lugged away in custom-built cages made from tough oak and pine wood. Get ready for some mind-blowing facts from ancient Rome's wildest shows. You'd think gladiator fights would be the main event, but guess what? The real crowd pleaser was chariot racing. We're talking a whopping 250,000 Romans jam-packed into Circus Maximus, making it way bigger than any soccer stadium today. And here's a fascinating twist. Women were actually allowed to watch these high-speed races, which might have had something to do with doubling the ticket sales. Now, while gladiator battles might seem brutal, chariot racing was no cakewalk. Either horses and riders faced intense danger as they sped around the track at breakneck speeds. Chariot racing was not for the faint of heart. In ancient Rome's high-stakes games, one surefire way to take out an opponent was a daring or reckless move steering them straight into the median wall. With reins tied around their waists, riders were at the mercy of the horses if things went awry. Imagine being dragged along, desperately trying to untangle yourself. With no guarantee you'd escape unscathed, it's a wild scene from history that'll leave you on the edge of your seat. Get ready for a blast from ancient Roman history. In their public restrooms, Romans used an interesting tool called a spongia, essentially a sponge on a stick. This handy gadget helped them clean up after, well, you know, The facilities themselves were pretty open, long marble benches with holes for the essentials and spaces at the front to hold those trusty sponges. No doors or dividers, so you'd be sitting right next to your neighbor, doing your thing. Once done, they'd simply rinse their sponge in the water channel beneath their feet. Then, without getting up or showing anything, give themselves a good wipe by pushing the sponge through the front hole. Talk about multitasking in the ancient world. So now that we've explored ancient Roman bathroom habits, remember, rinse your spongia in the channel at your feet, then pop it into a basin for the